Hi, I'm Barbara Gustafson. I'm an islander and I've lived here for about 25 years with my family. I work as a teacher, a weaver, and I'm a photographer. And I've put some of my photographs in books that I've shared with islanders, children's books and adult books. But I thought it would be fun to put my photographs together with some stories from this lovely little book, which I edited with Lori Stewart. We used 50 stories from islanders accompanied with photographs. And this book came out in early 2020, and it's available at the Heritage Museum and Vashon Bookshop. I'm going to use some of those photographs and more to share some stories and images from our island. This is the first in a series of what I'm calling a contemporary exploration of Vashon Island. Some of these stories come from the late 1800s and some are contemporary stories. So sit back and enjoy photographs and stories by islanders. The first will be a poem. Deb Phillimore Dammann wrote this poem. In my dream, I'm an island, my head awash in salt spray. I'm Vashon, swimming on her back, legs kicking northward in the blue, cold Salish Sea, floating like a ferry boat above a phosphorescent pedestal. I thought I saw you, love, waiting for me under the dock. Starfish hugged the pylons and clams splat around your feet. I love marine life. My training is in marine biology. And so while we're underneath this Northend ferry wharf, I thought I'd share with you some of my best friends, these spineless critters of the intertidal zone. Under the wharf, there are the pylons, which are their own micro community. Barnacles and snails and slugs live on these pylons, and the sea stars climb up and eat those animals. And that strange white anemone, which is draping down like that at low tide, likes to filter particles out of the surrounding seawater at high tide. In the shade of the wharf and in the moisture left behind by the tide, we find quite a diversity of sea slugs. The Pacific Northwest has a variety, an abundance of different types of sea slugs. They're a particular favorite of mine. We have an assortment of sea stars. This leather star, when you feel it, is slimy and it smells like garlic. And here is the gaper clam, and this is the siphon, otherwise known as its neck. And these are the clams that are going to splat water up your pants or into your boots when you walk on top of them at low tide. If you're standing on the wharf and looking north, to the west, you'll see Kitsap Peninsula. In the distance is Blake Island. And right here, we have a beautiful rocky shoreline with the tide pools. Great habitat for diversity of marine life. If you're very lucky, you might see a young octopus crawling along the rockweed looking for recesses where they can hide and find food. Underneath those rocks, you'll find these orange sea cucumbers and white pittock clams. You'll also find shore crabs and rock crabs, which are scavengers eating algae and dead things that they find underneath the rocks and underneath the algae. Attached to the rocks, you'll find chitons and snails and, of course, barnacles that are all gathering and perhaps filtering out food from the water or scraped off of rocks. Rich, rich habitat. One of my favorite places to go on a low, low tide. My next poem is by Lorna Cunningham. It's about commuting, the golden rules of commuting. Commuting is not for the faint of heart. Patience is a virtue. Never cut in front of another commuter. Back in the day, ferry workers could see you coming down the hill, or if you gave a good long honk, they would hold the ferry and wait for you. I seldom run into folks I know on the ferries anymore, but one thing has never changed: the ride home. It is my firm belief that true Vashonites show up with no time frame in mind. Waiting in line is for being neighborly, napping, singing, hanging over the dock rail, watching for sea life as gulls and osprey glide on the wind above, calling out the day. The ride home is magical, letting the waves lull the day's work out of our bodies, closing our eyes and feeling the sweetness of Vashon draw ever nearer as the water works its magic, cleansing and clearing us as we cross her abyss. And once you get to Vashon, there's lots of signs alerting you to leaping deer, horseback riders, bicyclers, pedestrians, sharing the roads, enjoying our beautiful rural island. Here's a story by Islander Serena Cosgrove. Vashon, the actual island, the land, the beaches, the paths, taught me mindfulness before I even knew what mindfulness was. I grew up on the north end of Vashon in a rental on Southwest 112th between Parking Lot Hill Road and the main highway. I could always run down to the beach. My walking meditation started with my beachcombing along the beach past Dolphin Point. As my gaze moved over the pebbles scanning for agates, beach glass, and chipped pottery, I entered a sacred, safe place in which I was the beach, the ebbing tide, the seagull cry, the smell of seaweed. 45 years ago, I found this peace and began a lifelong commitment to walking meditation. Sometimes I still do, as often as I can. I walk from Bunker Trail down past Dolphin Point towards Winghaven Park with my pockets full of colored glass and an occasional agate. Winghaven is a sweet 7-acre property. It's part of the Cascadia Marine Trail System. If you arrive by boat, you're able to camp on the grassy field and get a beautiful view of Mount Rainier.